Texans get smacked around in Minnesota, but it's not even close to the ugliest loss in the division. Speaking of the division, are the Texans still cruising in the AFC South? Plus, can we chalk a contender off of the list? It's the week 3 wrap here inside the Landry Locker Room.
Yeah.
Good ride.
It's the Locker Room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, Locker Room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source. We the pulse of the city too. Landlocked. Got the game in the headlock. Localize every.
Different feels about the Texans, but kind of the same as before in a different way. It is the Locker Room, number one source for Texans digital content. I'm Landry Locker. You can see me here throughout the week in the morning on SNL. We'll be at it again tomorrow at 9. Shout out to everyone who came and joined us for Reaction Monday today at 8 a.m. Best Reaction Monday product when it comes to the Texans. And shout out to everyone that's riding along. At 10:30, Texans off on Tuesday, Wednesday. They'll be back at practice. Got your practice reports here. I was actually at practice today, and let's jump right into this. The offensive line is a popular topic, and the offensive line, quite frankly, it's one of the more polarizing topics throughout the history of the Houston Texans franchise, which is younger than any other franchise in the NFL. The offensive line is one of the first things that's mentioned when talking about David Carr, maybe even too much because I think he was going to suck no matter what. I just don't think he had the makeup and mindset. And we talked about it for Deshaun Watson for a long time, and they've heavily invested in it. And it seems like the offensive line frustration has kind of reappeared. You have the penalties, and then you have the lack of consistency. But I asked DeMeco Ryans if he was still confident in this offensive line. And here is what DeMeco Ryans said about that.
Confidence in that this offensive line, with all the factors we've talked about, can still be effective and do what you need them to do.
For sure, our offensive line, they'll get it going. They'll do exactly what we need them to do. They had some really good reps in the game. Everybody likes to talk about the negative reps. We had a lot of good protection in the game where we completed a lot of deep passes through the.
Didn't most
of
those get negated by penalties?
Plays that were made, and we had really good protection. So I don't let a few bad plays dictate of who we are. I know who we are, and I know how our guys will respond. So I'm excited about our O-line and what's in front of them.
Okay, he's excited about it, and that's fine. That's the DeMeco Ryans. That's kind of the DeMeco Ryans makeup build. He's not really going to get pissed off. And I heard some people, there's been some frustration with DeMeco not getting pissed off. I just don't think that's what he does. Do I think behind the scenes he's sitting there saying it's all good? I don't. I think he's very aware of media distractions. He tries to avoid that. But if you want a coach that's flipping over tables, getting pissed off and all that, you got the wrong coach. Period, point blank. And I don't think it's necessary. I do think accountability is necessary just to be able to accept what the problems are. But DeMeco Ryans is not that guy. On the chat, Supers go to the front. Philip said Landry jinxed us, saying the Vikes was going to be an easy win 2 weeks ago. I don't know that I'm that powerful. I don't know that I'm that powerful, but I appreciate you for swinging for my nuts like that and thinking that I could jinx anything. So thanks for hopping on D's.
These nuts.
Appreciate you, my friend. Thank you for rolling through. Mr. Flo says, what's so depressing is all those players the Vikings have we had on defense. I mean, did you walk away from that saying, damn, Jonathan Grenard's better than Danielle Hunter? I didn't. I walked away saying that the offensive line performed poorly and Jonathan Grenard was able to take advantage, and there was no threat of a run game. So the Vikings were just able to tuck their ears back and go after CJ Stroud. I didn't walk away from that saying, damn, they got away. Didn't walk away saying, damn, Blake Cashman instead of Azeez Al-Shaair. And I damn sure didn't want Kamu Grugier-Hill, a.k.a. Jack Easterby's buddy. So that's not really what I walked away from that game with. I did walk away from that game kind of questioning the offensive line. And I just never understood the notion, and I'm wrong a lot. So I'm not going to be like an I said type of dude. I've never really just felt good about this offensive line. There's just something about it where it goes back to the Titus Howard thing. Titus Howard, I saw he got a good PFF grade. I think he's fine, but really, really good, no. And I think the contract, you're paying him like he's really, really good. Tunsil, he's good, but it's just a different vibe with Tunsil. It's up and down. And then I think Shaq is getting older. Juice is young, and Kenyon Green, we didn't even know if Kenyon Green was going to be a functional NFL player before this year. So I think you're just kind of getting ahead of yourself when it comes to the offensive line. I like Fisher. I think Fisher could end up being a pivotal piece of this thing whenever they reach their ultimate goal. But the offensive line, I'm not saying it's ass. I'm not saying it's terrible. I'm not sitting here saying that, they don't have a chance in hell with this offensive line. I just think that it's going to have to be a combination of them being okay and CJ Stroud being really, really good. So that's kind of how I look at this offensive line. So I don't look at it the way that some do when it comes to the O-line. The PFF grade for Titus Howard was good. And DeMeco Ryan says he's still confident in the O-line. Okay. If he wasn't, I don't know they would tell us. We'll see against the Jags, because I think there's a golden opportunity against the Jags, which brings us to the first localized reference on tonight's recap. The Jags suck. Okay, they've been the same effing team for 3 years with Doug Peterson. Maybe there's like a shelf life with Doug Peterson. Maybe Doug Peterson is like a car lease where after 3 years, it just kind of gets a little bit old and you need to move on from it. Maybe that's where things are with Doug Peterson, but they look like the exact same team, and this is the worst version of this team. Their owner came out before the season and said, this is the best Jags team of all time. That is not a misquote. That is a 100% quote. Their owner came out and said, and Florio put the quote up from Khan. He said that this was the best Jags team of all time at ProFootball.com. Let's pull this quote up. Here it is right here. He called it the best team that the franchise has ever assembled. 3 games in, the check is bouncing. Will this spell the doom of Peterson? That's a quote from the owner. So if you're the owner and you believe that, and it's not hyperbole, then I almost wonder if the Texans have a chance to not only knock the Jags out in 2024, but maybe even get get Doug Peterson fired. Because if you start out 0-4 with the best team ever assembled in Jags history, you don't have like significant injuries. We saw B.O.B. get canned 4 games into 2020. I wonder if the Texans could be knocking out Doug Peterson and the Jags this Sunday. And they open as a 4.5 They open as a 4.5 point fave against, and I said the dog-butted Jags. I think that's kind of an accurate representation of what the Jags are. But this is a bad team, and I would be shocked if they're not looking for a new coach, and Trevor Lawrence has his third coach. And it's going to be an offensive guy too. Now I know Peterson's an offensive guy too, but they're going to have to figure that out with Trevor Lawrence. Because they're heavily invested in it. They can't be on this mediocre treadmill. Maybe they don't have a choice. Maybe Trevor Lawrence just isn't worth a shit as a can't miss prospect. And I think that ship is kind of sailed. You're wondering if he can turn into can Trevor Lawrence turn into like a Derek Carr longevity quality quarterback at this point? You're paying him a crap ton of money, and that's really what your hope is. Like any hope that Trevor Lawrence is going to be elite, that he's going to be like Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes or any of those guys, that's gone. Like let's get rid of that, and let's not make excuses for why it hasn't happened. He hasn't been as good as he was gassed up to be. So I just don't know what they're going to do, but they got to bring in an offensive guy. It'll be my luck. The Jags beat us Sunday. Actually, wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if the Jags won either. I mean, they're played really, really bad, and everything I just said is true. But I mean, it's the NFL. Anything can really happen. And if the Texans' offensive line is going to perform the way they did in Minnesota, then yeah, anything can happen for sure. It's not a crazy thing. Like this wouldn't be like, freaking Georgia losing to Texas State or something like that. I mean, it's still a 4.5-point spread. So yeah, I mean, it could definitely happen, especially coming off what we just saw the Texans do and how we saw the Texans perform. So we'll see how that goes. A lot of y'all calling for Blake Fisher. I don't know about all that. But let's look a little bit closer at the AFC South. Right now you have the Jags and Titans at 0-3. You have the Colts at 1-2. There are 3 winless teams in the NFL 3 weeks through. 2 of them are in the AFC South. The only other win in the division is the Indianapolis Colts, who squeaked by Chicago yesterday, and it wasn't the most pretty performance of the day. So you have the Indianapolis Colts sitting at 1-2, and then you have the Titans and Jags at 0-3. I saw that Tyler Boyd said that the Jags have Super Bowl talent on paper, and I don't know what paper he's looking at. Like, did the paper get wet and the ink kind of like melted to where he couldn't see who their quarterback was? Did he not see the offensive line? Like, I think usually a roster, like if we're talking about depth chart, it'll go quarterback, running back, offensive line. Like, did the top of the paper get completely wet to where you couldn't see the offensive line and you couldn't see the quarterback? Because I don't know. I know that players got to be confident in their squad, but Super Bowl on paper? No. It was weird that Tennessee had such an identity crisis because of Amy Adams stank. And they fired Mike Vrabel, who, by the way, we're talking about people that are enjoying pettiness. Steven Nelson is number 1 on the satisfied petty rankings of former AFC South folk. We got to put Mike Vrabel at number 2, Malik Willis at number 3, Jonathan Grenard at number 4, and then at number 5 on the satisfied pettiness ratings, probably, I guess we'll put Kamu Grugier-Hill on there, although he asked for his release when it was a bad time. So I don't think there was there's not like any bitter feelings with Kamu Grugier-Hill. Jonathan Grenard felt like he didn't get the offer that he wanted. So there might be a little bit there. Blake Cashman just got money whipped. So they might feel a little bit some type of way. But Blake Cashman's also from Minnesota. Kamu Grugier-Hill, the Texans were terrible, and he just wanted to be released. So I don't think he's like got any pettiness in him. This game on Sunday is really, really interesting because if the Jags win, and I'm sure this is the message to Doug Peterson, or from Doug Peterson, as he fights for his life. If they win, they're one back of the Texans, and they've beaten them head to head. If the Texans win, you're 3 games up on the Jags, and they're all but done. So expect a really, really solid effort from the Jags. I don't know what that means. I think that the Trevor Lawrence factor is going to be really, really interesting. It's also a short week. They're coming off the assing in Buffalo, but expect a good effort because on one hand, I can sit here and say that DeMeco Ryans and company are going to have an opportunity to knock out the Jags as they're against the ropes. On the other hand, I don't want to say the Jags like show some sort of fight, but the Jags can get off the ropes and maybe you can ring the bell in the first quarter of the season, which I was so used to saying when it was 16 games, but the first quarter-ish of the season ends and you're only one game out of your division. And it's a crappy ass division. They benefit from that like the Texans do as well. So it'll be really, really, I think it's going to be a really good matchup. But the thing about the Jags that you have to be careful about is I know that everyone likes to say it's early, not as much as people do in baseball, but it is early, but you're going to be facing a team that is basically fighting for their season. If you start out 0-4 and the team that you're chasing starts out 3-1, and that would mean that they were 2-0 in the division, then yeah, you can pretty much say that the season is over. Maybe Doug Peterson's message doesn't get through, but that's the type of squad that the Texans are going to be facing. They're going to be facing a dog-butted Jags team that is going to be fighting for their life and fighting for their season. So we'll keep an eye on that. Texans, again, 4.5-point favorites at BetUS, which, by the way, lost that Vikings bet. Gassed myself up, $200 down, lost the bet. Happens. Oh, well. I heard about this clip. I haven't watched this, so I'm going to watch this for the first time with y'all. And by the way, the 0-3 Bengals, I don't know where the hell they go from here. Pittsburgh's 3-0. Baltimore just beat the Cowboys, which might not mean much. But Baltimore's better squad than Cincinnati. Cincinnati's in an interesting spot, too. And that was a team that you thought you'd be competing with. They like to start slow, but this is really, really slow. Lost to Washington today. Jaden Daniels, by the way, if we want to keep localizing it, he's trying to CJ Stroud, Caleb Williams. Second quarterback taken, the better one than the one that went first. Who knows if that's going to be a long-term thing, because it's not like Caleb's playing as bad as Bryce did in his season plus. But it does appear that Jaden Daniels might have a little something for sure. So I heard about this rant today. It was, I guess it was Lance Zierlein. Shout out to Lance on ESPN 97.5. And I guess he was reacting to Laramie Tunsil's comments to Aaron Wilson, where, you know, he said he was accountable, but then he also said that he was accountable, but he felt like there was like an inconsistency with the officiating. He thought maybe the league was trying to set some sort of example. So on 97.5, John and Lance, they put this clip up. I heard some people talking about it today when I went to Texans, just in the media types. And I want to watch it with y'all. Let's hear this rant from Lance Zierlein. This is a very well-respected film watcher, probably the most respected film watcher in town. I respect that he actually watches film and doesn't pretend to do it. But let's hear what Lance Zierlein had to say about Laramie Tunsil. Apparently, he kind of went in on what Tunsil had to say.
Don't tell me it's a communication issue. Don't tell me any of that crap. This is you trying to guess the snap and guess the cadence so you can get out fast. That's it. And it's a selfish move because you just are worried about your own individual thing, and you don't even seem to care that it puts the Texans behind the chains. It's just communication. It's not, yeah, I'll take the blame for it because my name is being called on the penalties, but it's not just me. He showed the least accountability.
No,
and I'm going to go back to this story too, because this is what really irritates me. I was told by a coach who's in the league who talked to a former Houston Texan coach who told me they used to have to negotiate with Laramie Tunsil to get him to practice. They had to beg this guy to just go out and practice. He didn't do anything preseason. He's like, I don't even know if he's really locked in as part of a team.
Okay. I mean, that's a lot. Look, I've said this to Laramie when we've had him on the show last year and the year before. He's a different type of athlete, man. And maybe he's not different, but he's a little bit more open with what matters to him. And what matters to Laramie Tunsil, he's bragged about being the highest paid offensive lineman in NFL history twice. Every time that an offensive lineman gets paid, Laramie Tunsil's the first one to comment. We didn't see him practice last year, although he did play hurt. And we didn't see him in camp this year, although he was coming back from an injury. So, I mean, you can say what you want about whatever Lance said. We know that he knows guys in the NFL. He's saying what he said. 97.5 put their stuff out there. But I do think the questions about Laramie Tunsil are valid. I mean, he's not performing well. And it goes back to, I think it goes back to the story that I always tell, where a player was mad at what someone said, and the journalist Jean-Jacques Taylor just straight up asked him, "Hey, do you want me to evaluate you like what you were when you came in the league, or do you want me to evaluate you now?" And if Laramie Tunsil is going to be commenting on every single big money left tackle offensive line contract that happens, and he's going to, be proud. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't be. And there's probably guys that aren't as vocal about it, but you're going to be proud about being the highest paid offensive lineman. And then there's going to be questions about effort along the way. Then people are going to expect you to look like one of the highest paid offensive, like someone that deserves to be one of the highest paid offensive linemen in the NFL. I think it's only fair. And I think that's part of the reason that these guys get paid so much, is because there is so much passion, emotion, and all that. I think there's a line that you don't cross. I think when you're in the media, you should maintain some sort of credibility, not carry water for any of these athletes. So I think Laramie Tunsil deserves to be criticized. But I mean, if you're telling me, like, has Laramie Tunsil this year played like a guy who should be one of the 4 highest paid left tackles in football, I would say maybe. I mean, definitely not last week. That's for sure. So we'll see what happens. And the other thing is, I would really like to see Laramie this week, whether he wants to double down or whether he wants to clarify. But the comments that he made to Aaron Wilson about the penalties, because he has the C on his chest, and the Texans aren't sending multiple guys to the podium. So all these guys should be available in media scrums. And when you're a captain, when you're the main talking point, when that quote is put out there, I think there should be some commenting from Laramie Tunsil in a media scrum. And we'll see if that's going to happen. We'll try to make that happen. But even if it's just 2 minutes addressing what's going on, I think he's got to go up there and say something. He's a captain, right? Outside of like the Aaron Wilson quote. And I also, just to be completely honest, I asked DeMeco if he was confident in the offensive line. I would have liked to have. I thought that maybe we would get like a follow-up on the quote. It's not my story. I thought that there would be a question about the clarification. That it's not really my story, and it's not like it was like a national headline or anything like that. So we'll see what happens with there. Colt says you're crazy if you think Laramie will get on the mic. He has to. Like, and that's the thing. Like, there's some leniency, and I look, I pull back the curtain for you guys. I be as transparent as I can. I be as professional as I can. I also, I'm one of you. I'm one of the people. But he has to. Like, he's supposed to be required to talk. I don't think that he's being held as accountable for that. And quite frankly, I think there's been times where it's probably been, a hellacious and a tough time to talk. But right now, there's big expectations for your ball club. You're one of the highest paid guys on the ball club. You just had a really bad game. The coach is going up there and saying that you got to be better. So just go up there and just say a little something. But yeah, 50K, okay. I mean, that's a lot of bread. But we'll see what it goes. In the Life of Colby says the crazy thing is that if we win and Tunsil has no false start calls, half of y'all would be back on his nuts, respectfully. This is like this is like the really stupid thing, like where people think that they're saying like something smart. The guy that came in the Life of Colby, I like you. I get what you're saying, but no kidding. Like fans are disappointed when a guy has a number of penalties on the road and they get pissed off at him, and it's been kind of a theme. And then if he goes out and plays good against the Jags, people will like him. Like, yeah, that's obvious, man. Like, that's not like what are they supposed to do? Are they supposed to say he's awesome after that performance and after what they've seen? Like, I don't get that. Like, there was some weasel in the postgame show the other day. Man, these guys are fair weather fans. Why are they being so negative? Dude, like that you react to the loss. Like, have you seen some players get down after a loss? Like, that's the type of idiot that goes to McDonald's and complains about the food being greasy. Like, yeah. And I'm not saying you're that in the Life of Colby. I'm just saying, like, of course that people are going to be happy if Laramie Tunsil comes back and plays well, for sure. But you know, I got love for you. You're a regular in here. I'm high, Landry. I'm tired of talking about this loss. I'm ready to move on, G. Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there for sure. Shout out to you for being on that.
High-grade marijuana called Kush on the streets. Did you know what that was?
Now I do.
Me neither.
So there you go. The fans finally being negative is why we finally got some change from ownership. Thank you. That's the thing. Fans not showing up kind of lit a fire under ownership's ass. And I think that eventually that would have happened, but the fans realizing that there's a POS, a slime ball, a moron in charge of things, and Jack Easterby, a con man, that kind of lit a fire under their ass. I also think gassing him up publicly kind of helped too, on the station's flagship. Not to pat myself on the back, but I do think that kind of helped. I actually know that kind of helped. But yeah, like there's no right or wrong way to fan, but yeah, that's the Tunsil thing's not new. Like, this isn't an overreaction. This isn't like CJ Stroud had a game where he threw 5 interceptions and all of a sudden people were saying, man, he sucks. He's awful. No, this has kind of been a frustrating talking point for a while, the Tunsil false starts. So yeah, I don't think that there's I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. Bull says he's about to go get him some of that
High-grade marijuana called Kush on the streets. Did you know what that was?
Now I
Me
do.
neither.
Join the party, my friend. Why do you think they look lost in this scheme is the scary part? In my opinion, they can't even pick up basic stunts. Yeah, that is weird. Like, especially the stunt. I would say the one stunt that I would look at is like the prime example of what you're saying was at the end of the second quarter. At the end of the second quarter, I mean, that was as basic of a stunt as you'll see, and they never had a chance in hell there. So that is kind of a little bit concerning. But again, man, like when you're getting all these penalties and you're taking away these big plays, and I mean, these are big plays. Like there's multiple plays where you're getting in Vikings territory. The first play of the game was a completion to Nico Collins, and Stover got a holding penalty. I mean, immediately, like you come out the first play of the game and you're at the 41-yard line. What are you at? No, you're near midfield, and Nico Collins catches the rock. You're going to the line of scrimmage. You're about to be in Minnesota territory. Like, the game can change like that. Like, you got a shot, then you get the holding penalty. It's one of those things where it's, you know, you can't go back and say this would have happened, and there's a lot of ifs, but man, that one thing, like it's hard for me to completely judge CJ. It's hard for me to completely judge. So it's even really kind of hard for me to completely judge the running backs. I don't expect a lot from these guys. I expect a little bit more from the offensive line. I don't expect the offensive line to get elite, but I don't expect a lot from these running backs. They ignored it. Like the Nick Caserio, DeMeco Ryans, the whole time, they ignored the running back position. I mean, you have teams that are putting more priority in running back that already have running backs. And they said, okay, Cam Akers, which was a last second thing. Cam Akers, it's not like they proactively brought him. They brought him in the middle of camp because maybe they saw Damian Pierce and they didn't feel confident, but they didn't really address that. So I don't expect a lot from these guys. We saw Cam Akers score in the pass game. We saw Dare Gumbawale catch the Bobby Slowick gadget play. We really didn't see a lot of the run game was basically abandoned. So I don't even like the running backs aren't good, but I don't expect a lot from them. The offensive line was awful. The tight ends were awful. And that's it. Like, that's what I can say was awful. But when that one thing is awful, nothing else stands a chance. Not the quarterback, not the receivers, and not the running backs. So the offensive line has got to be better. Do they have to be awesome? No. They got to be better, though. They got to be better. That's the bottom line. I think they know that. Cade Stover had a really bad game. I don't know. Like, I think Cade Stover should be able to block Jonathan Grenard. I mean, I know that Jonathan Grenard's getting talked about now like he's freaking Khalil Mack in his prime or something like that. But I think Cade Stover should be able to man up and slow him down a little bit. I think he'll tell you that as well. Shaq Mason too. I mean, that was actually kind of nuts. You had the stun at the end of the first half. I don't know whose fault it was. Some say Mason, some say Scruggs. I don't know. Pick someone. And then you have Jonathan Grenard lining up on the interior and beating Shaq Mason inside. I watched every snap of Jonathan Grenard's career with the Texans. How often did you see him do that? And maybe that's a schematic thing. I don't know. I kind of thought that Jonathan Grenard was used fine last year. But how many times do you see Jonathan Grenard line up on the inside and just completely blow by a guard? That doesn't make sense. That should not happen. But it happened. And I do wonder what they're going to do at tight end at this point. Like, is Cade Stover, do you just charge that to the game? Or is there something that has to be done when it comes to that? Lance Zierlein stated that Tunsil basically not giving crap has been a recurring problem since 2019. Yeah, he said that. We just played the clip. I heard that. I mean, he doesn't seem like someone who's like dying to play ball. He's really, really good at it. I think there's a little more to him. I think he's a smart business dude. He's a savvy dude. But yeah, I mean, he's not just sitting there foaming out the mouth to go play football. I think he has a lot of interests, which is fine. But you know, there's some guys that are just dying to ball, and there's other guys who are really good at ball, and they go out there and get their check. And when they're on the field, it's all business. But after that, oh well. I don't know how much sleep was lost by the L. So that's just kind of where it is. That's kind of the bow on the game that was in Minnesota. We can move past that, and we can look ahead, and we can look at the rest of the AFC, the state of the league. Be sure to swarm the like button. I appreciate y'all for doing that. Shout out to my man Killa for giving you that instruction. Swarm to it. You ain't never hate. Swarm. Yeah, and I think DeMeco Ryans, the one thing he has shown a good ability to bounce back after ugly ass losses. So I think we got to give him credit for that. The Jets last year, he had the bounce back, and there's been a couple of bounce backs for DeMeco. So we'll see how it goes. Let's hear from the man though himself. This was DeMeco Ryans' media availability today at NRG. You heard me ask him about the offensive line. This was DeMeco's post-loss media availability right here in the locker room. Take it away, Coach.
And you have to be on the details of your job every single time that you step out there, especially when you're on the road, right? It's always harder playing on the road. So you definitely have to be on your assignments, be where you're supposed to be, and you cannot hurt yourself, right? When you're going against a tough opponent, really good team, tough crowd, like you have to not hurt yourself, but you have to find ways to continue to help yourself and everybody playing together.
Going into the season, the league wanted to make emphasis on the tackles and the illegal formations. And when they came to you and they talked to you about it, what was the understanding of it? And, was it brought up that it could change week to week depending on which referee and crew you have?
Now, with the penalties of lining up, right, we have to be better. We have to align right. It's clear with the rules of how we should line up, so we have to line up correctly.
Thank you.
And that starts with us.
Thank you.
The different penalties and the illegal formation penalties that you all have occurred, as well as some of the leaks in allowing pressure to get to CJ Stroud.
Yeah, we go to the drawing board and we fix it. We got to line up right, which I know we can do. We have to line up right, and we have to protect as best we can up front. There's 5 guys just working together, or if it's 6, 6 guys in particular, we all have to work well together, and we have to play relentless. We have to swarm up front, and we have to get the guys blocked.
You come from an officiating standpoint. They have analytics about everything. Some crews, they have stats about the tendencies. When you have any crew, how much information do you guys have available to you to communicate to the players? Like, hey, these guys really have been calling a lot of holding, or maybe they call the false start.
And what are we doing?
Yeah, the analytics with the referees really doesn't matter to me. We teach playing the game the right way, and that's all that matters. When you step out on the field, you play the game the right way. However they call it. It really doesn't matter. I don't want players worried about how the refs call it. You have to go play your technique the right way, and that's the only thing that matters.
It feels like the majority of the sacks that have gotten to CJ, even some like the pressures, have come on like stunts in games. How do you guys go about kind of trying to correct that? Because it doesn't feel like they get beat one-on-one. It feels like most of the time the pressure, things of that nature, it's off of stunts. How do you guys go about improving the communication to make sure that can become mitigated?
Yeah, the communication and everything with the stunts, it starts up front it starts with the coaches. Like, we have to make sure our guys understand it and make the proper calls, so all the guys are working together and see it the exact same way. And all guys are communicating, not relying on one person, but everybody communicating, working well together. And, we know the issues there. We have to get it fixed. We can't allow the same things to continue to happen. All right. Start with coaches, players have to take ownership as well, and we have to get it fixed.
Is it a practice with Laramie out of your practice him lining up? Or is he just supposed to know where he lines up?
Yeah, we know where the line. LT, he knows where to align.
Thank you.
And we just have to do a better job of getting it done.
There you go. Thank you.
They're playing a game tonight, but early impressions of the Jaguars, what they do well, some of the challenges they present.
The Jaguars would be a really, really good team to go against. I mean, with Doug Peterson, Super Bowl head coach, he knows offensive football. He knows how to deploy his guys in the proper way. They can be an explosive attack, especially downfield with the new guys that they've added. Always respect the running back ETN, just the running game, also in the screen game. They do a really great job of executing on the screens. So we have
this was before
be dialed in. We get this one out. Bad game flushed out of our system, but we're excited to have a division opponent coming into our house and see how we respond.
Some of the success they had with some of their rushers against the tight ends when the tight ends were blocking, is that just, hey, that guy beat our guy that time, we got to be better next time? What kind of goes into using those guys as blockers in those situations against that type of player? Yeah,
when you have different protections that are called, you mix up the protection scheme. Sometimes you have tight ends, blocking the edge. Sometimes, they're chipping out. Sometimes they're single one-on-one. But you mix it up as much as possible. And our tight ends ended up one-on-one in a few matches, and they got us on a couple of the rushes. We had to be better and block it up, and we got to get rid of the football.
You and Matt and the defensive players have talked a little bit about the relationship between the rush and the coverage. Just how did you see that relationship kind of function yesterday?
For us, I thought we had good rush at times where we were around the quarterback, but we didn't finish as much as we needed to. The coverage piece was there. It was a sloppy day on both ends. We had some really good rushes, and then the coverage wasn't right. We had good coverage, and then the rush didn't get the quarterback down. So I like the way our guys played. We just got to be able to finish around the quarterback better.
You know, the second quarter and a little bit of the third, you only gave up 7 points, I believe. How do you guys go into challenging, not challenging, but challenging that throughout the majority of the game? You guys have moments where defense is playing really well, but they have other moments where it kind of falls apart. How do you guys go about channeling it to breaking glass the entire game?
Yeah, it's a matter of guys really just dialed in, being on the details of their job. Like, we've had some really good moments, good stretches of football, and of course we want it all to look that way. But the other side, they make plays as well. So I'm not aloof to that. They have good players and they make plays, good scheme, good coaches. They make plays as well. And we have to I think we had some opportunities there to capitalize and get some plays in our favor, and we didn't. We missed a lot of opportunities that we had in that game, and that falls back on us.
They talk about the 24-hour rule, win or lose.
Okay.
How much is that an emphasis to the guys to use today as the last day and then turn this page?
The 24-hour rule is always in effect, whether we win or lose. You flush it and you move on. That has no bearing on our next opponent, so we move on and accept the next challenge that's in front of us.
Why do you think Sam Darnold was able to have this type of success that he had against you?
With the success that Darnold had, again, it goes back to a lot of the plays were in the red zone where we dropped the guy in coverage on one play. We had good coverage. The rush wasn't good on another touchdown, so we had opportunity to pick the ball off on one, so we're in position to make those plays. So I don't think it's not so much of what Sam Darnold did, but so much of what we didn't do with being in the right spot and actually making the plays. Like, we're on the receivers, right? But also we have to make plays. So just because you're there, it's not saying he made some good throws, but we have to challenge guys, be stickier, and we have to make plays when the ball is in the air.
Confidence in that this offensive line, with all the factors we've talked about, can still be effective and do what you need them to do.
For sure, our offensive line, they'll get it going. They'll do exactly what we need them to do. They had some really good reps in the game. Everybody likes to talk about the negative reps. We had a lot of good protection in the game where we completed a lot of deep passes in the middle of the field. We had a lot of explosive plays that were made, and we had really good protection. So I don't let a few bad plays dictate of who we are. I know who we are, and I know how our guys will respond. So I'm excited about our O-line.
Make you feel confident?
In front of them.
What does it say about your team that yesterday after that loss, everybody's in the locker room taking accountability? No one, they're not pointing the finger at anyone. Everyone is taking the blame.
That's what it's about. It's a team first mentality. That's what I want our team to be about. It's always about the team. So every guy has to man up.
On that note, that was DeMeco Ryans. He's confident. There's a lot of people upset. This will probably be a talking point. I might ask him about it on Wednesday, but there's a lot of people who I think want him to like flip tables or go Antonio Pierce and say that people are making business decisions and stuff. It's not what he's going to do. I saw in the chat, someone said, hopefully he doesn't go the Kubiak. I'm going to take the blame. That's what it's going to be. He's going to be Gary Kubiak. I'm taking the blame, even if it's blatantly obvious. That's kind of the school that he comes from. That's his mannerisms. That's his mindset. He's not going to fake it. So if you're expecting a coach to go up there and bang on a table or something like that, it's not going to be DeMeco. And we'll see what happens. Some would say that kind of instills confidence. We are officially on to Jacksonville. We can move on to Jacksonville. I didn't really see the accountability from the team either. I don't know where that one came from, but it is what it is. Who knows? The good news is it's a long season, and the Jags, the dog-butted Jags, are coming to town. Chance to get Doug Peterson fired. If the Texans win this game, there is a chance Doug Peterson will be fired. By the way, we've talked about the teams that have it worse than the Texans, the teams that the Texans are looking up at in the AFC standings. The remaining unbeaten's Kansas City. You're not close to that level. Buffalo, you're not close to that level, although you play them in 2 weeks, so you'll get a nice little measuring stick. And then the Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay. Believe that when I see that. Appreciate you for coming through Off day tomorrow with the Texans, not for me. SNL with myself and Cody Stutes. We're going to go through the most bitter mofo to ever leave NRG. What he is saying, is it valid or is it petty? We'll also talk about the Jags, get more into the state of this AFC South. And then on Wednesday practice, Thursday practice, Friday practice reports throughout, SNL live throughout, night stream throughout, on the scene, in the mix, fun times, on to Jacksonville. Always remember, folks, when it comes to this Texan stuff, whether Laramie Tunsil's the reason for the false starts or he's not, and whether DeMeco Ryans is throwing stuff and throwing tantrums or he's not, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. Thanks for coming through the weekly localized wrap-up of the Houston Texans, which we do each week after Monday Night Football. You can join me Monday through Friday, 10:30 right here in the locker room, as well as in the morning on S&L. Appreciate y'all for coming through. Videos throughout as well.
Headlock, localize every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top two and we not too plugged in, daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days, opinions to give, we got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up, we number one. You don't need to try your luck. Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you